This week in the news, big devs explain successful pricing, Capcom clearly has no idea how to code for PC, and more on this week's Old Man Rage Said the News. Before we get the show on the road, hit the like and subscribe buttons if you enjoy the content. And in some good news, Hytale achieved quite the numbers. First, it managed to attract 420,000 viewers on Twitch alone. Quite impressive considering it was competing with categories like League of Legends and Counter-Strike. It almost has triple viewers compared to both of them. The breaking numbers don't end there though, because they managed to secure 2 years worth of development costs just from this early access. Now that's a lot of money. The cherry on top is the fact that Simon also expected over 1 million players. That's so much players, especially just for early access. I also would have loved to run with the 2.8 million player count, but there was a vulnerability that allowed players to spoof their username. With that in mind, I went to Simon and Hytale's X accounts and found nothing to confirm player numbers or anything related to the message, thus leaving that as a possible fake. And in other news, the Peak developers explained successfully pricing a game. It's kinda weird logic, but if it works, it works. In an interview with GameFile, co-creator Nick Kamen explained his theory behind the game pricing, and I quote, "We had this joke of, like, how much is a game really? In a player's mind, what does it mean to spend $5? Well, that's $5. But $6? Well, that's still $5. $4 is also kind of $5. $3 is $2. And $2 is basically free. So we've got these tiers. $12, that's $10. But $13 is $15. And we found that $8 is still $5. It doesn't become $10. $7.99, that's $5, right? So $8 is going to $5 is the biggest difference we could find in pricing. So we found it very optimal. I don't really know how that logic came to be, and I just read the thing. But hey, it probably has some validity considering how big their game is. And then again, might have been just a joke answer, but I'd very much like to believe that's the route they took. Be nuts and funny at the same time. And in what looks like a bad line of code gone wrong, Capcom made a mess. Apparently, the more DLC you own in Monster Hunter Wilds, the more FPS you have. This meme came through, but I want to double check and found out this wall of text. Just a small update on the Monster Hunter Wilds situation. While editing, Capcom have replied to the original poster and told him they'll be looking into it and it will be fixed. They'll be addressing the whole DLC checking login and possibly more than that. Now, back to the video. Now, I'll read the most important part here. If you want to read everything for yourself, pause the video and feel free to do so. So, Capcom focused hard on microtransactions and they implemented an insane, and one might say crooked, aggressive DLC ownership check. Yes, it constantly checks if you have the DLC, just like the Nuvo. All of these tests as well were done on the same machine, same settings, but on 2 different accounts. One with all the DLC, and one without any DLC. There were tests done on a second PC with the same results, and Digital Foundry did reach out to the guy that did everything. He also replied to another person with OP saying they initially tested the DLC one by one, then in batches of dozens, which resulted in linear increase in FPS. Here is even a video showing how much checks it does. To be more specific, the modder here made a mod that sets the DLC check interval to every few seconds. Just in this 47-second long video alone, the mod has skipped 600-700 checks. Now, as of writing and recording, Digital Foundry didn't make a video on this topic, but this video alone should be sufficient enough proof that Capcom really fumbled their DLC check. Top that off with the Nuvo, and no wonder why this game has performance problems. Yeah, and in case you haven't noticed, I didn't mention the Nuvo during this whole thing. If that turned off people at the point of sale when they saw the Nuvo on Steam specifically, or any other digital platform on PC, assuming it's listed there, oh boy, does Capcom have a foot in its mouth here. In other news, the Fallout London lead calls Bethesda to sell the series off as the writing has gone downhill. Not shocked really, considering it's Bethesda we're talking about. You know, the studio that is just purely selling a concept of a game and lets players mod it into a better experience. You know, that Bethesda. But anyways, the project's lead, Dean Carter, did an interview with esports in which he said he feels like they've gone one game too far. Not only that, but he believes that selling off the franchise off to someone else better, because he isn't sure if it's in the right hands. Mind you, he reiterates that he loves Bethesda. He also goes further, cause we all know Bethesda won't just sell off one of their flagships like that. And I quote, "I reckon if they could inject in the quality of some good writers, then the next Elder Scrolls game will be great and the next Fallout game will be great. But they need better writers, honestly." That's his words, not mine. Okay, well, let's get one thing straight. I can't really speak about the writing since, well, never played a Fallout game, I know. However, he does also say they went too far in the opposite direction, which was also admitted by Fallout 4's lead designer and writer. So, well, if nothing else, at least he should be heard out. Now, whether Bethesda does anything on the matter is a different story altogether. But anyways, if you thought I was done with Bethesda, you'd be wrong. Because a former Bethesda dev talked about Elder Scrolls 6 and player expectations. Oh boy, this is gonna be good. A former veteran Bethesda developer has said the studio may end up with hateful comments even if Elder Scrolls 6 ends up being just as good as Skyrim. Which, in hindsight, is a low bar compared to today's games. But anyways, don't get me wrong, Skyrim is a good game for its time and it still holds up with mods, but compared to something like Cyberpunk, there is a long way to go here. In an interview with Esports Insider, former Bethesda lead artist Nate Porcupine agreed that the development team behind Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout are in a quote no-win situation because of expectations that fans have. He specifically said, and I quote, "Yes, and that definitely factored into me leaving because Skyrim, being one of the top 10 games of all time, how do you beat that?" He further said, "If they do, great, and I hope it's a great game, but even if it's just as good as Skyrim was, you'll still get so many people throwing out hateful comments. I'm sure there will be more death threats again. All of that stuff. It's really unfortunate that that's the way things have gone." And the more interesting part is that he speculates that the reason for Elder Scrolls 6's announcement is so people are not pissed at them for announcing Starfield at the time. Which is an interesting thought to have, but he also confirmed it was an expensive decision. Oh boy! So, Elder Scrolls 6 fans, how does it feel to be Half-Life 3'd? And now for something I'd never expect to see. So, Concord 2.0, Highguard, and we can't have nice things. So, I'm pretty sure everyone saw this tweet here, right? You saw it? Yeah. It got community noted showing that it's fake. Not only that, but there is this tweet here describing how exactly it was even done in the first place, and why it's BS. But it still got me thinking. Are there any actual leaks or anything shown about this game? Then I found this gem. Yes, one of our favorite punching bags. The gamer believes it's a good thing nobody is talking about Highguard. Oh boy. You know what? Let's hear out their logic. It surely is something grounded in reality and not doing. Then again, this is the gamer. Anyways, they believe the slightest mistake in how the game is marketed will ruin player sentiment. My brother in Christ, think for a second, will ya? Oh, brother. Considering people are already comparing this shit to Concord, and if keeping everything silent makes things better, I'm pretty sure you're not doing it properly. Now, if they actually marketed things and it turns out it's even more unlikable than it actually appeared, they can change it. The reason why they're saying, quote, a delayed game is eventually a good, a rushed game is bad forever. You know why it's stuck for so long, right? Because it's the truth. This genius over here also believes that it's more exciting to discover stuff instead of being laid out in like, what, 3 15-minute videos? Let's think about this for a hot minute, right? You, as an individual, can have the experience by refusing to watch a video, right? However, the game will gain more traction if those 3 videos disprove, at the very least partially, people's theories about this being Concord 2.0. Now, wouldn't that be much better and healthier for the game compared to not making anything at all and letting the public run with the narrative? Yeah, I'd say if you're making a game and you want to disprove something, you're better off making videos about the game than keeping your mouth shut. Just a thought. But, you know, it's the gamer. The koala-like brains over there can't even comprehend that. Hell, to even further elaborate on this, and use their own words against them, yes, Highguard needs to demonstrate that it's in fact a new breed of shooter, and the best way to do so is with, again, 3 videos at the very least. Because if you don't know anything about a product, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, look, here you go. Well, I ain't touching your product if I have no idea what it's about, so have fun with that. You're not Oblivion to stealth drop your way onto Steam, you know. God. The gamer was so close to connecting the dots. But anyways, the funniest part of all of this is that they're comparing it to another game that is supposed to be shut down sometime soon. The dude didn't realize the implications of him writing this now, did he? Now, if Highguard does succeed, well, good for it in the developers. And for its player base too. But, you know, this moment will still remain funny for the self-written joke. And now, censorship! You'd think we are over with journalists, but for this one, a little context is required. Now, Groundus 2 censored some characters and many games, but they walked back those changes and will focus on region-specific bases. Which is good, primarily because some maniacs can figure out how to bypass those region restrictions and, you know, maybe not legally, but play the uncensored game. But anyways, this journalist over here is losing his mind because of it. Just look at the title. You can feel the anger emitting from this dude. Now, as per usual, they bring up what started this whole thing, but do not include who, why, or even what caused any of this. Remember, Kotaku did this as well for its 2025 list where it came to payment processors. Not only that, but in this whole article, he never even dared to criticize the idea of censorship, not even for a split second. And just for the record, I read this article twice to make sure I'm not missing something. Afterwards, I got hammered because I could barely stand the article. It's fair to find it weird that characters have strange outfits who quote-unquote appear underaged. Then again, there are medical conditions like dwarfism that exist. And mind you, those characters are, well, for lack of a better word, pixels on a screen. If you can't differentiate between pixels on the screen and screaming that they are kids, I think you have a few issues that you need to work out there, preferably in a psych ward. Now, for those who are not in the know, it's a condition that affects adults, resulting in them being less than 147 centimeters, or, for the freedom-loving people out there, 4 feet 10 inches. So him right in here appears underage, when in fact it's canonically not even a human character, is stupid to say the least. Not to mention this dumbass is complaining about pixels on a screen. Common sense is lost here. Now you guys know why I kinda hammered myself. I'm probably gonna do that again after recording this. Dear Lord. This dude also believes that there are clashes on the culture side, and let me tell you, as someone who is a lurker in the anime industry, only clashes between these brain-rotted journalists and normal people who just enjoy a genre. He even admitted here that the game is not intended for kids, nor advertised for them, so what is the whole point of censoring it if it's meant for adults? Fuck if I know, but this guy here is sitting on his moral high horse, telling us that this whole thing is wrong because of looks. Yeah, he didn't give up on the quote-unquote look-like part here, even mentioning, and I quote, but it's also still really strange that players are irate over what does look like a child bride. Motherfucker, I think we need to scan your hard drives. Oh, and if somebody thinks that deleting something off their hard drive is gonna erase it, tough luck. You're gonna have to do better than just a single delete and empty out your trash can. And mind you, about 90% of the players don't generally goon to these alleged, quote, childlike characters. Now, 10% is Blue Archive players. For legal reasons, we must inform you that this is a joke and don't get butthurt over it. If you did, seek medical attention. Now, ultimately, this is just people saying out loud, hey, don't change what we like about the game. Simple and easy to understand, right? No need to publicly admit that you are unable to grasp the idea of people living outside of your small bubble. Or in general, people being able to separate fiction from reality. But then again, you know, this guy's an idiot. I need a drink after this story. Moving on, System Shock Remake lead couldn't sleep due to the mass vitriol from fans during troubled development. Oh boy, that doesn't sound good. Now for some context, the development of the remake took 8 years, which kind of felt like a decade for the original backers, but it was a rough decade for the directors, Stephen Kick. After scraping the original Unity version, the studio's first Unreal Engine 4 version deviated heavily from the game and suffered from feature creep. The director told FRVR that the first iteration of the Unreal version after we had moved from Unity, it really started to feel relatively quickly that everybody on the team, despite whether or not they liked System Shock or not, had a game that they wanted to make. And it wasn't System Shock. It would have been System Shock in name only, and it was becoming very apparent very quick. And in February 2018, the remake would enter a hiatus because the team wanted to refocus. And if you know the internet, you would also know that they were left with a lot of negative comments on every update, with the likes of, quote, yet another scam project and wasted money. And thieves never like to be called out public, and so on. Not only that, but the director got threatened with lawsuits reported to the IRS and FBI, and he even said, and I quote, it was awful. There was probably a good month and a half where I couldn't sleep at night because of the weight of everything that had sunk down on the company. And yes, that's the exact quote from the article. I had to double check it. Feel free to check it for yourself in the sources. With all of that, I'm kinda surprised the game was even released in the first place. The article also points out that the revenue from Night Dive allowed the developers to continue the project. The director even said that a lot of people put in extra time and effort into the project to see it through, even being amazed that it even came out. Even going so far as to describe the release date as a blur. Man, it sounds like a nightmare, so I wouldn't blame the guy. It sounds like at least a nightmare ended. And you know, the game launched as a critical success, and even the recent reviews are mostly positive on Steam. So that should account for something, right? And now, for a case of water is wet. That's right, folks. Ubisoft is back at it again with more layoff. Yes, first it was the Halifax studio, and now 55 more employees will lose their jobs. These layoffs will impact the Division developers, which, by the way, will have its 10th anniversary in less than 2 months. Man, what a gift for the anniversary, am I right? Oh, the anniversary is in 2 months! Lay off 55 people! That should get them motivated to do better, right? That should get them to go happy, honey, I'm home, right? Ubisoft. One bad decision after another. IGN reported that Ubisoft proposed a quote-unquote organizational restructure, hearing this for the 5th time with Ubislop, that will impact 55 employees in its Swedish studio, Massive Entertainment, and Ubisoft Stockholm. These upcoming layoffs are allegedly not related to individual performances, recent deliveries, or the quality of the work. They are instead forward-looking and structural. They said it, not me. And mind you, I can smell the bullshit coming from Ubisoft, and I'm not even in France! The studio will continue with their long-term plans, so the Division players won't miss out on whatever Ubisoft is creating for them. For better or worse, that is. The impacted employees, on the other hand, are being informed directly and supported with care and respect in line with local regulations. Here's hoping that they find a better job somewhere, and here's hoping they're good at it. In other news, Valve has updated its developer disclosure form for generative AI. More specifically, it's focused on AI-generated content that is consumed by players, not the tools. The discovery was made by Game Discover Co., where they cited that Steam rewrote the AI disclosure, meaning you disclose if there are AI assets in the game or in the making of said game, but you no longer need to disclose if you used AI to code the game, more formally known as vibe coding. Now, PC Gamer here says that Valve added a button to the Steam overlay that allows people to report illegal content generated by games with live generation AI, and thankfully adult-only sexual content is excluded from the list. Australia won't get us this time. Now, all jokes aside, let's be real. If the game is flagged for mature content and somebody needs to censor it, yeah, you all know where I'm going with this. Anyways, now for a dumpster fire! Oh boy. So, not only the reviews for Cold Violet get worse, but now they're not even trying to defend themselves properly. Now, before I get into the topic, I would like to point out that this is one of the few rare instances where gamers and reviewers are aligned together, and it's beautiful to see. Now you can see Sevi here asking a simple question about their business since they are supposed to be inactive in the state of Wyoming and got blocked. Oh boy, this sure isn't, suspicious. On top of that, Jay Viper also quote-tweeted this gem, and the geniuses at Team Kill Media responded by calling him unprofessional. The irony is high with this one, Chief. Oh boy. Yeah. Cold Violet this year is gonna be the gift that keeps on giving, I guess. Now, instead of answering the question and disproving the alleged illegal activity, they just copyright struck Jay Viper's video. Now, hats off to Team YouTube, at least. They confirm it's invalid, but they're not the one getting copyright struck here. At the very least, they didn't allow the copyright strike to go through and then put Jay Viper in a living hell situation like some other YouTubers that happened to them. Now, Atreus got his video as well hit with the copyright strike shit show, and YouTube couldn't do anything. That is, they couldn't do anything originally. they realized the mistake they made and allowed the counter notification, meaning Team Kill Media is the one responding now. YouTube here did also confirm that they backtracked on the claim. Oh boy! I'm not gonna be surprised if they decide to copyright strike this video because we're talking about it. I won't put it past them, but let's be real. I'm gonna have to be on the lookout in the inbox over the next week or two. But anyways, that's something for me to worry about, not you. And now, to wrap the week up, what better way to do that than with a new punching bag? Why? Because we got a new gender-focused video game site called, and you wouldn't believe it, The Mothership. Why I'm calling this a punching bag, you ask? Well, this website was made by former Polygon editor Maddie Myers and Zohanna. Already just reading Polygon out loud, and I can tell this website is just gonna be a joke. Now, the full launch is on the 26th of January, and the website is allegedly supposed to produce stories about, quote, the state of labor, gender, equity, and culture in video games, with the end to make everyone feel comfortable. Ahoy, Captain! I be seeing the red flags from over here! Let's be real for a minute here. If you have to specify that your intent is to make everyone feel comfortable, it's a red flag in my books. Cause either A, you'll try to cater to everyone and fail miserably, or B, you say that only publicly just so you can fly under the radar as much as possible. And I think B applies here, because they admitted that it's not for straight men. And don't believe me? Here's the quote from one of their emails. We're writing for the girls, the gays and theys. And just truly embracing that. Man, I love my gut instincts. And before anyone asks, yes, they admitted as well that it's just gonna be a website about DEI. Doubt we'll ever use this thing as a source, but it might be funny to see their cope posts once in a while. I don't know. Taking the piss out of the gamer is gonna get old at some point, so you know, Gamer 2.0, here you go. But anyways, that's all for this week. Again, if you like the content, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and I'll see you next time.